On style and suspicion. Chapter 4, Elevator of Doom.
Chapter 4, Elevator of Doom. A few days later, while Rae was shopping, Jackie called. She'd been speaking with Damar when a sudden loud noise occurred, and he then went silent. Concerned, Jackie asked Rae to go to his penthouse to check on him. Luckily, Rae was less than 2 minutes from his place. When she arrived, she bumped into a man rushing out of the elevator. Panic immediately clawed at Rae's throat, a cold, constricting fear that threatened to paralyze her. The metallic tang of fear mingled with a new, unsettling scent, a disturbingly sweet aroma like warm bread baking clinging to the air. It was the same scent she'd noticed earlier, a faint but distinct fragrance emanating from the man who had bumped into her in the hallway at the mansion. He'd moved with an almost predatory grace, vanishing around the corner. The casual bump now felt deliberate, a calculated encounter. A shiver, cold and profound, snaked down her spine. This wasn't a random encounter. This was a warning, a deliberate act designed to intimidate. Damar. The thought struck her like a physical blow. She had to get to him, now. She sprinted towards the nearest elevator, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The polished chrome door slid open with a soft whoosh, revealing the empty car. With a desperate, silent prayer, she stabbed the button for Damar's penthouse. The ride was agonizingly slow. Each floor seemed to stretch into an eternity, the silence within the elevator car amplifying the pounding of her own blood in her ears. She gripped her purse tightly, her fingers brushing against the cool steel of the concealed weapon inside. The sweet scent, now fainter, seemed to linger even within the elevator, adding to her growing unease. She kept replaying the man's face in her mind, trying to discern any details that might help identify him. When the elevator finally lurched to a stop, the doors sliding open with a soft chime, she burst out. The penthouse door was ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning her inside like a gaping maw. Adrenaline surged through her veins, sharpening her senses. Drawing her concealed weapon, she slipped into the opulent apartment, moving with a practiced stealth she rarely needed to employ. She pulled her bestie, Nina, aka her all-black 9mm, out and took the safety off. Every fiber of her being was on high alert, her eyes scanning the room, her ears straining for any sound. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the city outside. Then she saw him. Damar lay sprawled on the floor of his private elevator, his face pale and clammy, his eyes closed. A dark, wet stain spread across the plush carpet beneath his head. A sickening dread washed over her, a wave of nausea rising in her throat. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but Rae forced herself to remain calm. She knew she had to act quickly. She spotted a heavy marble sculpture on a nearby table, a grotesque, abstract figure that looked more like a weapon than a piece of art. With a desperate cry, fueled by adrenaline and fear, she brought it crashing down on the elevator's glass door. The impact shattered the thick glass, sending shards raining down around her. The air inside the elevator was thick with a cloying, metallic stench, stronger than before. It was mixed with the sweet scent she had noticed earlier. It was clear that some kind of gas had been used. Covering her face with a silk scarf from her purse to protect herself from the fumes and the flying glass, she continued to batter the remaining glass until a jagged hole large enough to reach through appeared. Ignoring the sting of the shattered glass on her skin, she reached inside and with a surge of strength born of desperation, dragged Damar out by the feet, pulling him away from the potentially lethal fumes. "Call 911, she yelled, her voice hoarse and strained, as 2 uniformed security guards, alerted by the commotion, rushed into the room, their faces etched with confusion and concern. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing steadily louder as paramedics arrived on the scene. Damar stirred, groaning softly, his eyelids fluttering open. What happened?" he mumbled, his voice weak and disoriented. "You were attacked," Rae said, her voice trembling slightly. "You were on the phone with Jackie. She heard a thud, the call dropped, and asked me to check on you. Someone hit you over the head by the looks of the gash on the back of your head and dragged you into the elevator. You inhaled some kind of gas." Damar winced, his hand going to the back of his head, trying to piece together the fragmented memories. I remember a strange smell, like a bakery, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Sweet, very sweet. Rae's eyes widened slightly. She quickly jotted down the detail in her notebook, her fingers flying across the page. Bakery, that's important. The scent of baking bread, the chilling encounter in the hallway, the attempted murder in the elevator. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly starting to fall into place, forming a disturbing picture in Rae's mind. But the picture was far from complete. And as she watched Damar being carefully loaded into the ambulance, his face pale and his eyes filled with confusion, Rae knew this was just the beginning of a much larger, more dangerous game. As the ambulance doors closed behind Damar, the red lights flashing and the siren fading into the night, Rae stood on the sidewalk, a whirlwind of thoughts and questions swirling in her mind. The sweet scent, the mysterious attacker with the predatory grace, the elaborate plot to incapacitate Damar and trap him in the elevator. Each thread tugged at her, demanding to be unraveled. She watched the ambulance disappear into the distance, the flickering red lights like distant warnings, and a steely resolve settled in her heart. She wouldn't rest until she understood the full story, until she brought the person responsible to justice. Returning to the penthouse, now eerily silent and empty, Rae began a systematic search for clues. The lavish space, usually filled with life and energy, now felt cold and sterile, holding secrets in its shadows. She moved with purpose, examining every room, every corner, every detail, searching for anything that might hint at the identity of the assailant. Her gaze swept over the pristine surfaces, the expensive artwork, and the panoramic city views. She meticulously checked under furniture, inside decorative vases, and along the edges of rugs, her detective instincts keenly honed. The security guards had already done a cursory sweep, but Rae knew that true clues often hid in plain sight, overlooked by less observant eyes. She crouched by the private elevator, still slightly ajar, the shattered glass glinting like dangerous diamonds on the plush carpet. The sweet, cloying scent lingered, a phantom reminder of the attack. As she ran her hand along the base of a nearby ornate glass table, her fingers brushed against something. Tucked partially underneath, almost completely out of sight, was a small cream-colored card. It was a local bakery's business card, featuring a cheerful logo of a croissant. Next to the card, also partially concealed, was a small dark cloth, no larger than a handkerchief. She picked it up, and a potent wave of the same sweet, almost sickly scent hit her. It was stronger on the cloth, undeniable and distinct. Instantly, her mind flashed back to the stranger who had bumped into her in the hallway, the man who smelled distinctly of baked goods. This was it. This was the connection. Carefully, Rae retrieved a resealable plastic bag from her ever-prepared purse and placed both the bakery card and the scented cloth inside, sealing them securely. These were tangible leads, threads she could follow. Without hesitation, Rae headed out, the bakery card clutched firmly in her hand. A flicker of hope, mixed with a growing sense of dread, spurred her on. She had to find the man from the elevator. The aroma of fresh bread and pastries hit her the moment she stepped inside the bustling bakery. And there he was, behind the counter, just as she'd hoped. The young man who had bumped into her, casually wiping down the display case. Instead of confronting him directly, Rae, ever the strategist, decided to approach the owner. She sparked up a casual conversation about the delicious smell and the variety of pastries. The owner, a friendly middle-aged woman, was happy to chat. "That young man, he's new, isn't he?" Rae asked, gesturing subtly toward the suspected assailant. The owner chuckled. "Oh, that's Mark. He has been with us about 6 months now. Good kid, but he just put in his 2 weeks' notice." Rae raised an eyebrow, feigning casual interest. "Oh, really? Why's that?" "He said he came into some money suddenly," the owner replied, shrugging. "A family inheritance, I think he mentioned. Funny, because he was struggling to make ends meet before." Rae's mind raced. Suddenly wealthy? This tied into her suspicions. She continued to probe gently. "He seems like a hard worker. You must have a good team here. Do you ever hire from, university programs or something? The owner beamed. Actually, yes. We have a great program with the local college. In fact, Mark is in the same fraternity as Zane, that big-time celebrity assistant and social media fitness guru. They were in a special mentorship program together. Rae's heart skipped a beat. Zane. The name hit her like a cold splash of water. This was getting too close to home. Just then, her eyes landed on a framed photograph on the wall near the cash register. It was a picture of the owner, Zane, and Mark, all smiling, standing together in front of the bakery. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place with alarming speed, and they were all pointing to Zane. All clues seemed to point directly at Zane, but Rae couldn't jump to conclusions. Her client and friends' lives were at stake. The picture of Zane and Mark together, the sudden wealth, the shared fraternity connection with Zane, it was all incredibly suspicious. But was it definitive proof? And if Zane was involved, what was his motive? This was no longer just about finding an assailant. It was about uncovering a deeper, more sinister plot. What's up, my truth tellers? Miss Jones here, and honey, if you thought Chapter 3 was spicy, Chapter 4, Elevator of Doom, just cranked the heat up to 11. We're talking a near-fatal attack, a quick-thinking hero, and clues that are putting all the pieces together. Truth Serum, the bakery bomber and Zane's shadowy connections. All right, let's spill the tea on this wild ride. Our girl Rae gets a frantic call from Jackie, who was on the phone with Damar when a loud thud happened and then silence. Cue Rae, our resident super sleuth, heading straight to Damar's penthouse. Elevator mayhem and Rae's heroic rescue. Rae gets to Damar's building, and who does she literally bump into? A man rushing out of the elevator, smelling suspiciously like warm bread baking. And guess what? This isn't the first time she's noticed this oddly sweet scent. A shiver down her spine tells her this wasn't an accident. She sprints to the elevator, pulls out her 9mm, yes, you heard that right, our girl carries heat, and gets to Damar's floor. The door to his penthouse is ajar, and inside, she finds him sprawled in his private elevator, head bleeding, unconscious, and a thick, cloying gas in the air. Panic sets in, but Rae, ever the quick thinker, grabs a marble sculpture and smashes the glass elevator door. She pulls Damar out, calls 911, and just like that, our boy is saved. When Damar comes to, he confirms the bakery smell, and Rae knows this scent is a crucial clue. The bakery connection and Zane's entourage. After Damar is off to the hospital, Rae, with her detective hat firmly on, starts scouring the penthouse. She finds a bakery business card and a small cloth that reeks of that same sweet, sickly scent. This confirms her suspicions. The man she bumped into, the bakery smell. It's all connected. Rae, clutching that bakery card like gold, heads straight to the source. And who does she find behind the counter, casually wiping display cases? The same man from the hallway. His name is Mark, and the owner spills some fascinating tea. Mark just put in his 2 weeks' notice because he came into some money suddenly. Suspicious much? But here's where it gets really good, my darlings. The owner also reveals that Mark is in the same fraternity as Zane, and they were even in a special mentorship program together. And just to seal the deal, Rae spots a photo on the wall. The owner, Mark, and Zane all smiling together. This is wild, my truth tellers. All clues are pointing to Zane, his obsession with Jackie, Marley's murder, and now a direct link to Damar's attacker. But what's his motive for all of this? And is Mark just a pawn in Zane's twisted game, or is there more to this bakery-scented mystery? What do you think, my gossiping gurus? Is Zane officially our villain, or is this just a master manipulator planting false clues? Let me know your theories, because Miss Jones is on the edge of her seat.